All right, welcome to Environmental Studies 291, although this will become 222 starting in the fall. ePortfolios, and this is a course for environmental studies students as well as students in other programs. My name is Dr. Rodney Dyer. I'm the Director of Environmental Studies, and this is a kind of a different kind of class than your traditional class. This is going to be an online offering of this particular class, and then the stuff we're going to develop here, you're going to use throughout your entire career here at VCU, and that'll become apparent as we go forward. So I wanted to start off with giving you kind of the big picture on why we put this class in the beginning. It will, starting in the fall, become required for all incoming freshmen or any transfer student to take this particular class. So you're kind of on the early end of it, and maybe can be considered a guinea pig for us to test all this stuff on and see what it works and what doesn't work. But you're getting on the ground floor on all of this. The big picture. So let's start off with talking a little bit about the curriculum that we've developed. Now, over the last 3 years, I just became director here, and we've changed the entire undergraduate curriculum in environmental studies. I want to give you an idea, a foundation on what our vision is and what we're doing. And many people come to this particular major for different reasons. Some people like policy, and some people like doing field work, and some people like geographic information systems, GIS. Some people like the quantitative stuff. Some people don't want to take organic chemistry, and there's a whole set of reasons why people come. So let's talk a little bit about our specific curriculum and how it's set up now. So why a Bachelor's of Science in Environmental Studies? Well, the goal of this Bachelor's of Science is to provide interdisciplinary undergraduate degree training. Now, everything that we do in environmental studies is inherently interdisciplinary. And that is because what we do as environmental scientists is we understand the operation of biological and ecological processes and how humans and society influences those. But we do so within a framework of working with human societies and culture and governments and economics, etc. So we are inherently interdisciplinary. And so as you look through your degree planning, your degree works, you'll see you're going to be taking stuff from biology and from chemistry and from physics and from English and from a whole bunch of different kind of programs. And so that is one thing to keep in mind, that the kinds of skills that you need to be trained in are not just a narrowing down and getting better and better at one particular discipline. You are going to have a broad range of skills, and that's very important for what we're doing. Now, this goal means that we need to cross disciplinary boundaries. Um, what we want to do is we want to provide you with skills and knowledge and experience that trains you in environmental science itself, in environmental technology, and environmental policy. Having the science and technology and policy, where those three things overlap, is really kind of the heart of what environmental studies is. And so that when you walk out of VCU with an ENVS bachelor's degree, you are going to be trained in the kind of integration of these three different disciplines. And realistically, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to develop this curriculum for you to prepare you for a career. I want you to leave environmental studies and get a job, bottom line. And we're going to try to do everything we can to make you as competitive as possible in the upcoming job market. And what we have to do is we have to think not what's important right now. We have to think, if you're a brand new freshman coming in, you aren't going to be out of here for 4 or 5 years. And then 4 or 5 years after that is really when you're going to be hitting the really competitive part of the job market, after you get into an entry level position. So we need to make sure that you are prepared for what's the cutting edge technology and science and policy stuff a decade out in front. And so that's a challenging and a very exciting thing that we're trying to do, and provide for the opportunities for you as a student. So when we talk about learning, we need to talk about learning outcomes. And so for environmental studies students, we have a series of learning outcomes that we think at the end of your undergraduate degree you should be able to do. So for example, here are the ones that we use for our overall curriculum assessment, assessing how well all of the students do going through our program. And so here's some examples. Relate principles and interconnections of environmental science and policy. How does the science that we know work with the policy, and how does the policy work to help understand the science. That is such an important component there. Demonstrate ability to use basic environmental skills within the research process. So if you're someone who really enjoys working in the field and you put on hip waders and you go out and you sample fish, well, there's a certain set of skills that you need to have to understand what sampling is and how much should I sample and how do I sample. Or if you're an individual who's doing land surveying, or you're doing remote sensing using GIS or drone technologies, or you're working on summarizing lots of different kind of community types. All those are basic kind of environmental skills that you need to be able to have some knowledge of it and walk in the door when you get a job for. Now there's this integration of these last three here from biological, ecological, and earth science concepts. Those three are the kind of the three legs of the non-policy components because we are going to have to learn about climates, and we're going to have to learn about oceanography. We're going to have to learn about carbon cycling. We're going to have to learn about population dynamics, et cetera. And so all of these things kind of come together. So what ePortfolios allow us to do in some way is to track skill development. And so, for example, perhaps we're talking about introducing a topic. And so, throughout the course of your undergraduate degree, you'll be introduced to some kind of topic within a course. That'll be followed up with a subsequent course that reinforces that topic, maybe two more courses reinforcing it, and then by the time you're a senior, you're going to get to the point of actually being evaluated on your mastery of that topic itself. And so this is a multi-year process, and ePortfolios help us track and follow these things. So this is not a class that you're going to take in this one semester and be done with. It's a class that's the tools you're going to be using throughout your entire career. So let's take an example. Okay, so this is how we think about higher order thinking skills. And so this is how we put together curriculum in this kind of diagram here. This is called Bloom's taxonomy. And at the very bottom part of it is just kind of basic knowledge. And you can look in the light bulb-like thing here on the right. There are verbs really talking about the kind of actions that happen for that level of knowledge, of comprehension, of thinking skills. So at the very base level, we have knowledge, where you can describe, you can duplicate, you can identify, you can outline, you can recognize, you can select. So if you think back into your learning thus far, there are classes where you have been able to survive by having a huge stack of 3x5 cards. And if you go through those 3x5 cards and you memorize that giant stack of 3x5 cards, you're going to be good. So that's a very kind of base knowledge, remembering previously learned information type of thinking skills. Coming up from that, there is a comprehension where you can take that knowledge and start demonstrating and understanding what those facts mean. It allows you to do things like infer, estimate, explain, describe. Right? And as we continue to go up, you can apply those knowledge for the application level. So you can change, you can compute, you can demonstrate, you can manipulate, etc. As we go up through the yellow, that's where we start getting to the real analysis of stuff. You can appraise stuff, you can break it down to constituent parts, you can analyze and see how other things relate to each other. This is where we start getting to the upper level of thinking skills about particular topics. The last two, synthesis, where you compile component ideas into a whole new, or propose alternative solutions. You know, if you learned about something in one class and a different class, you know what? That really reminds me of, this is a lot like that issue that was dealt with in this other class. Maybe I can apply the same kind of logic and reasoning to this new class or this new domain of science. And that would be where you would see that kind of information. And then finally, the evaluation. That's like the highest order thinking skills, where you can compare and conclude, discriminate, justify, interpret, etc. Those are the kinds of things that we're trying to do. So as you go through your career as an undergraduate, you are going to be introduced to something. You'll have some introductory knowledge. You go through comprehension, application, analysis, synthesis, and then finally evaluation. So if we use these I'm going to kind of use this color scheme from purple up to red in the example that I gave before. Let's imagine kind of that first learning objective, like integrating science and policy. Now, you are first introduced to that ENVS222, the kind of how policy and science work together, where you can recognize, you can define different kinds of things. Now, as you think about moving through your environmental studies degree program, you're going to get to a course 311, Politics of the Environment. That reinforces some of that, allows you to predict, practice, and demonstrate some of those key concepts. Summarize, synthesize, and create. Environmental pollution is a great example along this trajectory of being able to pull this stuff together. And eventually, you're going to get to your senior level where we do capstone courses. And capstone courses are courses that we put together that synthesize, that pull together all of these kinds of things and push it together. So for something like integration of science and policy, there is a trajectory going from your first class you took until the last class you take. And it builds upon each other going through the curriculum. Now here's an example. This is actually part of the curriculum review stuff that I have to do at the end of the year, looking at how we did with all the students. And you can see as columns here, every single one of those learning objectives that we had. And then every row here is a different class that we have in our curriculum, and we need to indicate where we've introduced a particular concept. This is the kind of the I box there. When we've let you practice or reinforced it is the blue ones, and then finally, kind of the assessment, the mastery of it is at 499 with the big A's. And so for all of these keys, we have 1, 2, and sometimes we have additional redundancy in our curriculum to help you gain skills and reinforce those skills as you go forward. So ePortfolios in general, what they allow us to do is to help you, and so this is a tool really for you mostly, although we do get some stuff out of it, is to help you organize your learning. It helps you reflect upon your learning. It allows you to preserve the variety of forms in which your learning occurs. I'm going to kind of step through and give examples of what each one of these things are. But they really, and if you think about it in the big sense, we've already talked about those learning objectives. They allow you to track your progress towards mastery of those learning objectives. So organizing your learning. So a lot of times people think when they go through their career, well, I'm going to take Math 151, I'm going to take Chem 101, I take Bio 151, ENVS 311, and each one of those is like a silo. That it's kind of contained upon itself and nothing ever kind of integrates outside of that. Why would I have to learn that, or why would I have to try to integrate those concepts? Realistically, this is perhaps the least effective way to understand the operation of natural systems, whether it's ecological systems or political systems or any kind of dynamical systems. Just because we have individual classes like Math 151 and Bio 151 and ENVS 341 doesn't mean they're isolated unto themselves. In reality, these things all build upon each other. So for example, Math 151, everyone's going to have to take that class. Well, the things that you learn there provide really the foundation for statistical analysis. Stat 210, ENVS 343, ENVS 401, all of these things build upon each other. And so we need to kind of not think so much as individual silos, but as kind of taking it horizontally rather than vertically through these topics. And that's going to provide you more inference. So where are you putting this stuff? This digital ePortfolio can contain components of written content or analytical material or quantitative reasoning or GIS output. Now, as you go through our undergraduate program, you're going to produce a lot of this stuff. You are going to write position papers. You are going to do statistical analysis, and you're going to do quantitative reasoning. You're going to make some really, really good-looking maps and kind of do some geospatial analysis. Now, where these things live could be anywhere. Right now, they probably live on thumb drives and hard drives of individual students, never to be found after they leave the class. And I think that is not doing you a good service for it. We'll come back to that. Now, an ePortfolio also allows you to reflect on your learning. And reflecting on it, we can come in two different ways. The kind of ways that are like active reflection in a particular point in time, and then there's kind of a more across-the-board temporal time of reflecting. So first, I want you to listen to this one short clip here about an individual talking about kind of active one-time or like at one point in time reflection.
Through doing the WATS-DB reflections, I have come to understand how closely related my math coursework was with developing professional skills that will be used in my future working life. My name is Mandy. I'm a fourth-year statistics major in the Faculty of Math. Last spring, for one of my core courses, Statistics 331, we had reflective bonus assignments where we were to reflect on how we demonstrated a professional skill in the classroom setting. So at first, I was really confused as to what was expected of me. This was the first time we were to do a written reflection in a math class. I did my first reflection on personal initiative, and in reflecting about personal initiative, I realized how I could be improving in the class. For one thing, I wasn't getting help when I needed to, and as soon as I made this change, I noticed my understanding and marks improved significantly. For the second reflection, I reflected on my problem-solving skills. This reflection really helped me understand how the course material tied in with real-world applications. Stat 331 is a very technical course which focuses on linear modeling. However, we weren't just learning about linear modeling in the course, we were learning about how to tackle real-world problems. For the third reflection, I did it on leadership. And this reflection, we had to reflect on the group project. For a group project, I encouraged one of my group members to do his personal reflection as well. He initially did not want to, but after listening to my advice and the advice of our other group members, he decided to do it. The three reflections helped me a lot in both improving my marks, understanding the course, and also bridging my understanding between the classroom setting and the real world. A few months later, I was at a job interview where they asked me to talk about a time where I developed a professional skill. So I was able to take my answers straight out of my second reflection on problem solving. My interviewer was so impressed with the connection I made between my coursework and problem solving that I got the job.
In addition to kind of individual reflection like the previous video, you can also look at reflecting on your progress as you make it through a program. So for example, here's a little bar chart with three different documents, and I'm kind of assuming that from left to right is going through your program. So kind of more introduction of concepts on the left, more mastery on the right, and kind of that reinforcing in the middle. So as you progress and become a better writer or an analyst or whatever, the complexity in which you are the content you're producing will increase. Now, it's hard sometimes to see that in a big picture for your own work. And so, for example, many students don't actually take at the end of their time and say, okay, let me look at the kind of writing, the kind of stuff that I'm doing here at the end of my undergraduate career and compare it to the stuff that I did in the beginning and see how far I've come. Now, using an ePortfolio, we can actually allow this to happen throughout in active time throughout your entire undergraduate career. And so you could track this progress, and it's really a nice way for you to look at what you're doing in relation to your previous work. Now we can apply, and we can do a lot of machine learning, and we can do some other things to apply common rubrics to this. And so within a single framework, we can look at how the complexity of your work has changed, increased, it's gotten better. But it allows you to identify and self-motivate as well. Maybe, I need to really work on my writing, and I've been doing this for a long time, and I still do need to work on my writing. It's just one of those skills that you need to practice all the time. But this is a nice way to be able to compare that stuff. So within an ePortfolio, we can draw upon some metrics to help you kind of identify this progress and reflecting on your work. Now, preserving the components of your learning. This is exactly another part of this is really important because you produce these artifacts of scholarship. And why do you do it? You do it because, well, some professor went on about blah, 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 and wanted you to do this, that, and the other thing, and I just wanted to do it and get my grade and get on. Well, we do this for a bigger purpose. And what we want to do is we want to allow you to preserve kind of the things that you produce as artifacts. This is evidence of your education. It's evidence of your learning. Other people might want to look at that kind of stuff. And the other people who might want to look at that may be, when you're going up for an internship in your junior year, which you should be doing, or you may be looking in the job market, or getting, get a job, or going to graduate school, doing a master's or doctoral program, or whatever you're going to do. These kinds of things are really kind of historical artifacts that demonstrate what you've done. It could be final reports, it could be lab stuff, position, it could be data analysis stuff. There's a lot of geospatial and statistical stuff we do that's dynamical, data visualization stuff. In lots of classes, you get actually a handbook or you develop kind of your own set of skill related activities or tutorials on how to do something that you should probably have somewhere that you can get access to as you might need them going forward. And so having a place to hold these artifacts that isn't random thumb drive 3 or my random Google Drive folder or whatever is probably a good thing for you because these things can be assets for you going forward. Ultimately, we want to prepare you for your career. Now, at the bottom line, if you show up for a job and you apply for a job and all you have, this is an example off the web, all you have is a piece of paper, a Word document with some bulleted lists, versus if you have a portfolio put forward with examples of all the artifacts that you've done, one provides a better representation of the learning that's been achieved by an individual than the other. And so what we're trying to do is provide you all the benefits that we can. So overall course logistics. Um, like I said in this particular class, it's all going to be on Blackboard. You guys have a set of schedules that are non amenable to actually even meeting once in class. It's going to be a mix of video assignments and readings. For example, you should see the syllabus. This is only a 1 credit class, and so realistically, about 12 hours of time is associated with that. I'm going to pull this down and probably push us to do more in a particular week than one, and that way we can get done in 3 or 4 different weeks, 3 or 4 weeks in the going forward. And so we will not be performing activities in this class throughout the entire 15-week semester. This is easily doable this way. So you need to think about this is a e-portfolio for your entire career here at VCU. We really want you to highlight your learning, to preserve these artifacts, and this really provides a feature-rich kind of online resume for you when you look for internships, jobs, or career placement. And so that's kind of the bottom line of what we're trying to do. So to get this abbreviated schedule, we're going to think about developing and designing your portfolio. We're going to use WordPress. The university supports WordPress as a platform for online blogs, and we have a particular set of templates set up to help you understand how that works. We're going to start producing a little bit of written content and some content we can use to assess some of these learning tools and to interact with some of the tools you have here at VCU. We're going to begin developing your resume, and we're going to look at how syndication and how the use of these e-portfolios can work in a class context and beyond. And that's some pretty cool stuff that we're going to be playing with. So I'm looking forward to this. What I will do is I will set up a first kind of little experiment for you guys to kind of assess, do a little self-reflection on why it is that you are an environmental studies major, and think about writing that up, and we'll use that as one of the first things we start populating. So again, thank you very much. I'm excited about this new course and how it fits into our curriculum. Now, for getting a hold of me, my door is always open. Most of the time, I'm even in my office. If you need to get a hold of me, an email is probably best. If you're walking by and you see my door open, pop your head in. That's no problem. I will be doing frequent updates on the Blackboard site, and we'll go from there. All right. Take care.